Another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm Lady TrenettWilson, your lecturer and social historian. I want to welcome everybody. Today is Juneteenth, and in Texas, that's a very special time. And I'm a Texas girl, so I wanted to share with you a little bit of the history of Juneteenth and why we celebrate today. Now, on January the 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. And what that did is it freed all the slaves in Confederate states. Now, these states included North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Virginia, Arkansas, Tennessee, and my home state of Texas. Now, oddly, these states, they found out about the Emancipation Proclamation with no problem. But in the state of Texas, the word did not, get to us until later. Now, in the Confederacy, they elected Jefferson Davis as their president, and his wife was allegedly mixed race. So please click down below so you can read about that because I thought that was really interesting. So now let's get into a little bit about Texas and where we were during that time. So Texas was really a stronghold. It was a Confederate stronghold. Though there was never any hand-to-hand combat or any fighting on per se Texas itself during the Civil War, Texas was a supplier to the Confederacy, and they supplied things like horses and leather and cotton, but one of their greatest resources were men, and they supplied 70 to 90,000 soldiers who actually fought in Virginia, Tennessee, and Mississippi. Now, one thing about Texas, people think Texas is a country place and backwards, but in truth, Texas is very metropolitan and they get down for the get down. Texas is a state that has a very liberal pow law, and you can actually carry pows right out in the open and very confrontative. So we'll kiss you on one cheek, but make us mad and get us in the wrong state of mind, there's something else that can come with that. So sometimes people move from the north to Texas thinking we're backwards and da, but we definitely were not. And you can see it here for the bad side. They really stood, and they went to other states to even fight people. So it was truly horrible, supplying the Union Army. So not, in fact, let me also say that the only fighting, so I will say there was a little skirmish when the Union Army tried to come into Texas, but the Confederate Army protected Texas from in Brownsville, Galveston, Sabine Pass, Laredo, and in Corpus Christi. And I won't say protected, but they fought them there. And so they were not able to move into Texas. So that's how strong Texas is and was even back then. But the face of Texas has changed. It's not just a big bastion of Confederacy and racism anymore. So I thank goodness for that. Though there are some pockets. If you get caught after dark, you may not want to be there. So that's what we fight still against in Texas. And we are definitely making our voices heard on every end to quit that mess and stop that mess. So there was never a large presence of soldiers in Texas for the Confederacy or for the Union. But, if there was some fighting to do, there were people here to do it. But a lot of times they would leave and go fight on these other, in these other states where the theater of war was taking place, and they would leave us unguarded. So we would get attacked by, Indians. And so it wasn't all, roses and peaches for those Confederates who were here at the time. So not until after 200 years of slavery, U.S. General Gordon Granger rode into Texas, in Galveston to be exact, with 12,000 troops. And he read Order Number 3, which let the slaves know that they were free. However, the news still didn't go all over Texas. Texas is huge. You could literally drive for 8 or 9 hours and still be in Texas. And so the news still didn't get out to everybody that we were free. So there were even some slave owners, of course, they weren't going to tell the slaves. There were even some slave owners who wanted to hold their slaves until after harvest season. So they were still trying to work the people even after they had been set free. So it was a very bad era during that time for Black people. They were trying to keep us under slavery, but there were Black people still at that time who were bold and brash. And what they did is when the general gave out copies of the order, they would take them from plantation to plantation and let the people know that they were free. And so that's how the news got out, on a broad level in Texas, that we were free. The Black people had to let each other know that we were no longer enslaved. So even being told after the order was read, there were still some people who wanted to keep us in slavery. That's just terrible. And really, slavery on a national level did not get abolished to December of 1865 with the passage of the 13th Amendment. So that is how Texas kind of stayed behind. Again, no troops here, so there weren't anybody to tell us. And then when the man did come, General Gordon Granger with his troops, there were still slave owners who did not let their people know that they were indeed free. So in 1866, freedmen in Texas, they organized. And what they did is it was called the Jubilee Day, and it was the first Juneteenth celebration. So, I do hear people talk and say, why do we have to celebrate another day when, about Black history and all of that? And I mentioned that at the beginning, but that is why. It's because we here in Texas, Black people in Texas, were not informed. And so we didn't know. Now, there's this lady named Opal Lee who was here in Texas, and she really fought to make sure that we found out about our freedom. And I'm just really grateful to her and the work that she even did to make sure that the word got out, that Juneteenth was a special day for Texas people who were in slavery during that era, and we needed to be celebrated. Now, I want you all also to know, we weren't unintelligent, just uninformed. And after we found out, we fought and we stood for our freedom. And that's why we're able to celebrate today. So we have us an extra day. And you also have to know also that Texas is still solidly red, but not always solidly racist. There are a lot of Black people in enclaves that are here now in Texas who represent us very well. We fight, we speak up, but some of the reasons you don't see it turning for a different political affiliation is because even if you're Black, Texas is extremely conservative. Faith, family, business. That's what rules Blacks in Texas. So Black people in Texas is all about God, all about their children and football and all of that. And we are not really into a lot of these liberal ways of doing things. That's why you don't see it turning despite a big presence of Black people. But what we do not stand for is the racism. So I just wanted to give you just a little bit of just a peek into Black Texas and to kind of let you know how we are and what we are here. And like Houston and Dallas, Galveston, Freeport, Lake Jackson, all these areas, a lot of Black people. And we, again, fight for our right, and we are doing very well in our state. So, as a proud Texas girl, I want to thank you all for joining me. I want to give a shout out to my great great grandparents who had to actually walk through this time, and all of those ancestors who did. And I thank them for fighting, for buying land, for standing on their square and making sure that we had when we got older. So, thank you, grandparents. I really greatly appreciate you. And I thank you to all of my listeners and to the visitors who checked us out for the first time. Now, if you want to learn more about our great Black history, definitely click down below. And I'm grateful to my brothers and my sisters who are celebrating with us Texans everywhere, who stand with us, even though we was a little late, knowing that we were free. Thank you for joining me for another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Have a great